Wallop!
Yes.
Hi!
Hey.
We've been yattering for about half an hour now. We've sorted the whole world out, and
If only.
absolutely. And Fiona is now a political expert for the whole of Scotland, and so Boris, eat your heart out.
I don't want to even think about Boris.
No, we're not even going to go there. We don't even want to go there. So
No.
our discussions took us round to, and what was your thing? What we have to learn is
The art of disagreeing without falling out with everyone.
good idea.
It is. We used to be able to do it. One used to be able to have a debate and go, well, fine, we've got a difference of opinion. Let's just leave it at that.
Yes.
And then carry on and do the shopping or whatever.
Yeah.
Now it just blows up into an enormous snit that gets smeared all over the internet.
And
Yeah.
all the time.
And you end up never speaking to your best mate again.
We've so far survived that.
We have.
Realize that.
Yes.
That's good. So I replied, yes, but how do you handle it when everybody, not quite everybody, because I'm sure you guys haven't, but out of 7.5 billion people, one hell of a lot of them, usually those in power, have egos the size of a planet.
Yes. And that is the problem. Not having an ego. Having an ego is actually important.
Yeah, you need one.
Yes, but you do need to trim it down to size and keep it there.
And this total inflation shit, which all becomes now me first, you know.
Yeah, I was just thinking Margaret Thatcher and the me generation there.
Yeah, but it was still a bit me-ish before then. Not that nearly so bad. I mean, that she really did help it along. And then you sort of got into Blair, the fundamental red Tory, who helped it along very nicely and sweetly and subtly, said, you didn't really notice. And then we got Cameron.
I think you missed out a couple of non-entities in the middle.
As you said, non-entities.
Anyway, yes.
So then we got Cameron, and everybody got on Facebook and said, let's get rid of Cameron. And I sort of poked little noises in saying, but if you get rid of him, what are you going to get instead? Nobody really listened. So what did we get instead?
So, yes.
And then it was like, everybody get rid of May, she's a problem, sort of thing. So I sort of said, what are you going to get instead? So what did we get instead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We now have, a man who thinks that fish are happier because they're British. Yes, exactly.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, for goodness sake.
I mean, well, when I was growing up, when you were growing up, when probably most of you were growing up, you couldn't have conned a 5-year-old with that.
No. You'd have been laughed at the playground. And I've seen it repeated. I made the mistake of looking at the comments on the Telegraph Twitter this morning. It was full of people saying how wonderful Rees-Mogg is and how all the fish are happier now they're British. There is something fundamentally wrong with the education system in this country.
There is some.
It doesn't seem to teach people how to think anymore.
Well, I don't think, to be quite honest, ex-teacher here,
yes,
that they've actually been doing an awful lot of that since about 1975.
Quite possibly not.
And this is from partly personal experience.
I was fortunate to go to a Jesuit school. If there's one thing the Jesuits do, they teach you to think. This is shooting themselves in the foot because they teach you to think, and then you immediately look at all the things that Christianity demands.
And you think, no. I had a similar sort of thing because my dad sent me to a convent.
Yeah.
I think he was having a laugh, to be quite honest.
Probably.
Knowing my dad, he probably was. Well, this will sort her out because if she makes it through this lot, she really will be able to think.
Yeah.
Because I was always a rebellious child, and when I apparently, because Dad wasn't actually, he was away and he came back about I was born at 6 o'clock in the evening, and he came back the next morning and saw me. And his mum sort of, with infant. And he took one look at me and said, "Good God, Molotov." Now, Molotov was just post-war, wasn't it? So 50s anyway. No, 40s. Molotov.
40s, I think, yes.
Yeah, 40s would be. And Russian, not premier, but next to. And he had one word which he said to everything, which was "niet."
Yes.
"Niet" means, to our Russian expert, I must introduce our Russian expert, Fiona, here.
I'm not a Russian expert. I'm learning a few words.
Anyway, what's
It
"niet"?
means no.
Yeah.
I actually did that one before I started the Russian lessons.
It's the only Russian word I know. And so, you've got this sort of several hours old, like 5 hours old baby, and your dad takes one look at you and goes, "Molotov! Oh God!" So you send that kid to a convent?
Oh, absolutely.
He's having a laugh.
Yeah.
Definitely. However, it did work because I had to go through all the usual Catholic shit that when you go to these schools you have to go through. And at first, some of it's quite sort of pretty.
Yes.
And so you sort of get quite entranced by it, and it gets, a Catholic mass is quite like fairyland.
Oh, it's ritual. It's a total ritual.
It is gorgeous ritual. It's all pretty colours and all pretty costumes and all pretty scents.
Yeah.
And all this sort of thing. And then you've been on your knees for about an hour and a half and you think, fuck this.
Yes. Also, if you're coming to it from a non-Catholic background, which I went to a state primary school,
Ditto.
You get there and all the ones who've been to the prep school associated with the convent grammar know all the proper prayers to say, and they know when to get down on your knees. Okay, we only went to mass on Sundays because we didn't get a chock house otherwise.
And I wasn't even, I didn't have any kind of Catholic parents. I had pagan parents who did actually say, why don't you go to church and join the choir because you'll learn a lot.
Yes.
For the same sort of have-a-laugh reasons, and it worked. I did get a super boyfriend out of that, though.
Yeah, you can.
As well. I don't know quite what, I'm not going into what we used to do in the back row of the choir.
Very, very traditional, yes.
Very. But anyway, you go to that and you go to this sort of thing. But back to our sort of thing about ego's the size of a planet, they did teach us, well, the contrast of that doesn't make sense. And for the first year and a half, I was boarding at this bloody convent, which was quite funny as well. And so I would get home at the weekend and say, "Dad, they said so-and-so. But then they said so-and-so." And he said, "Well, what do you think then? If I say, your horse has 3 feet, what are you going to say to me? Be polite, dear." So he actually sort of made it worse, but I couldn't stand the boarding after 18 months. So I said, "If you're going to put me back boarding, I shall run away." So he rang them up and said, "She's not boarding anymore, it's fine." It's quite good like that. But the best one was, though, we used to climb out. I must have been about 12 at the time, and we used to climb out the window because we had the fire escape on ours, and go down to the town, which was about a mile away, and go into the cafes where the boys and the jukebox were, of course. And then we'd come back and climb back in. And one night we were being awfully silly and I fell in the cucumber frame.
Ouch. Yes.
I was absolutely fine. The cucumber frame made a hell of a noise. So everybody went, and nothing actually happened. Except one of our friends in the dormitory who hadn't come stuck her head out the window and said, "What are you doing?" But so they're amusing bits. But it's that, I mean, parents don't do things like that. Maybe it even starts there. And, I mean, not that you've done this with your kid or anything, but, Yeah, who's that I was talking to? I was talking to one of the students yesterday about it. And there used to be the local bobby.
Mm.
And where I lived in Oakhampton when I was sort of about 7 or 8, and a little gang of us kids, about 3 or 4 of us. And Oakhampton had been bombed in the Second World War. And there was the bomb site. And of course,
Irresistible.
I mean, caves, ruins,
Yes.
things.
Always the chance of finding a bomb.
Absolutely. Even a hand grenade would have done.
Yes.
So, we get in there and the local bobby would come round and, what are you kids doing in here? And they'd be like, get out of here. Do you want me to tell your mum?
Mm.
No, get out. Right. So we all went down the park and created havoc down there. But in those days, if he had told mum, I would at the very least have got a severe telling off.
Yes.
Nowadays, what happens if the bobby tells mum that you've done something wrong?
And the next thing you know, the bobby's getting sued for harassment and child abuse. Yes.
Yeah. So how does
father used to say the same thing. You didn't complain if you got a caning at school. Obviously, he was at school in the 40s. If you got a caning at school, you did not tell your parents about it because you get
you might get another one. Because, I mean, and it wasn't sort of horrible abuse. I mean, the bobby was trustworthy. He did actually care about us. He did actually know my parents and everybody else's parents in the street, which was his beat. If something, I mean, a couple of times he was a bit worried. So, he did sort of behind our backs, come along and say, don't say I've said anything, but can you just stop Ellen and her friends going here? Because actually it's seriously dangerous as a hole. It's about 12 feet deep.
Yes. Well, any sensible parent will immediately go, right, child, don't go there. Yes.
Well, also in those days, and I mean, this happened with my girlfriend who lived next door. Her mum asked where it was explained. She took us both there and with a stick showed us the hole.
Yes.
You want to fall down there?
Yes. Exactly.
But I wasn't a princess. You weren't a princess. Got princess ideas. It was like, get up. But how many people, how many kids nowadays are treated like prince and princess?
It's certainly something I noticed with the latest technology. Part of that is generational, and yes, okay, I do remember having a phone in the house when I grew up, but I think I was about 18 before I used it. Whereas my daughter's known how to use a landline since she was about 10. And now you have 3-year-olds with their own smartphone. I was like, no, they don't need one.
They don't.
You do not need a computer at that age.
No, and you don't actually need a phone. I mean, we had nothing like that. If I wanted to phone when I was a kid, and I used to be allowed out even overnight on my own camping, and I had 4 old pennies in my pocket in a safe place. And the only way you could phone, and this might be in the middle of Exmoor, was in a red telephone box, and there were about 6 on the moor.
Yes.
It's big.
Yes.
And so
you could easily be walking for 5 hours to reach a phone box.
Easily. And but my parents, they knew roughly where I was going. Which side of the moor are you going? Right. Okay. So, if I hadn't reappeared at the agreed hour, they would have known where to start looking.
Yes.
And we were all, most of it, well, I can't remember any of the kids, and this was at the primary school. I can't remember any of the kids who weren't allowed things like that. We all went off together.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I'm a child of the 70s, but yes, we did.
Yeah.
We used to hop on the horses and go off, and we'd come back in the evening.
I used to
Yeah.
come back 2 days later.
Of Moors. I was South Manchester, so.
No, this is true. No, I mean, and seriously, I was.
Hmm.
I had my little pony Jewel,
Mm.
and I got, Dad gave me a tarpaulin, nothing like the gorgeous things you have now. It's quite a heavy job,
Yes.
and a sleeping bag, ditto. Probably, I think it was ex-army or something.
Always have
Um, taught me how to roll them and put them on the back of her saddle so that she could carry them and she wasn't hurt and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. Some food for me, like, here's some ham and some cheese and a bit of bread. Jewel didn't need it because there's plenty of grass and trees and things. And when you want to come back, tomorrow night or the night after?
And the only reason they asked was so they knew how much ham and cheese to give you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, and also when to look for me to come back.
Yes.
So if she's not back, and are you going to be at 10 o'clock tonight, or are you going to come back for 6 into supper? Glare. I'll try and be back for 6. Okay. They did understand I'll try and be back for 6.
Yes.
And they did appreciate it, that, possibly I might get excited about something that was there and be longer. But I wasn't special. You weren't special.
No.
And our parents didn't treat us as special.
No. And okay, to some extent, if you grew up in a family with 2 elder brothers and a younger sister,
you wouldn't.
learn better. No. There are lots of families now where there are elder and younger siblings, and they still all think they're special.
Yeah. And it's encouraged.
It is.
And the parents are encouraged to think that way too.
The big problem with this is it means you can never admit you're wrong.
Exactly.
And that's where we come back to the ego problem.
Yeah.
Because if you cannot admit you were wrong, you can never learn.
Yeah.
And you'll end up having a huge row with your best friend when you disagree on something and never speak to each other again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of you might stomp off for half an hour. Stomping off.
Just change the subject.
Yeah, but sometimes it's like, I'm going for a walk. And, okay, that's fine. But you come back and I mean, I know we've probably, most people here have done it. You come back and just say, actually, when I was out for a walk, so.
Yes.
And so you've given it a chance to, brew a bit in your cauldron. And instead of like clinging to the idea that you had first, which might still be all right, you've actually expanded it a little bit and been able to allow that there were threads possibly to other places.
Yes.
Or else you got something else to offer into the whole thing anyway.
Or you can come back and say, actually, I've realized you were right. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Which I recently did before Christmas, I did that with my daughter.
Yeah.
Because we disagreed over Brexit. I said it didn't need to be bad, and she said it will be. And she was absolutely right. It will be. It was. It is. I was wrong.
I'm totally with her. I've always known it's going to be bad. It's like, we shouldn't have done that.
It didn't need to be this bad, let's put it that way.
No, this bad, it hasn't even started yet.
I know.
Good God. What's the old one, when I got up each morning, I had to lick tongue, tongue, go when I get up in the morning.
That again comes back to ego, because we've got a bunch of politicians in London who have egos the size of planets and cannot listen to anyone else. So they've fallen out with everyone. And it's only just beginning.
How much then do you feel that fear come insecurity, lots of hyphens, is part of that ego the size of a planet? Is it like, if I give up this ego, what will happen? I can't look at that.
It might be. It might be. The thought that possibly I'm always right. I can't possibly not be right. I'm not even going to go there. And
I can't bear to look at it.
Yes.
And I will collapse. Because I
People
think
will
the
see,
I will collapse is really important.
it might also come down to people will think I'm a fool.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Which is a sort of nasty.
Most normal humans of our generations know perfectly well that from time to time you're a fool.
Exactly.
Get over it. It doesn't happen all the time unless you're really stupid.
But nowadays, somebody is involved in something that goes wrong or has an accident, and they're promptly told to resign and go to prison. And you sort of go, no, they made a mistake.
Yes.
Some bad things happened, but
yes.
you really need to be that severe?
Having said which, 40 years ago, if you made a mistake in politics, you resigned anyway.
Yes, but I mean, the mistake, it's a whole sort of different universe, and I wasn't just talking about politics.
Yeah.
You make a mistake at work and you're practically thrown out in your ear.
Yes, in some places, depends what you're doing. Yes.
And I was reading something in the news this morning. Apparently, according to statistics, the worst place to be to catch COVID is the office.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the latest regulations say only go to work if you're totally essential, work from home if you possibly can. Most office work can be done from home if you've got a laptop. Most people who are doing office jobs have a laptop. Excuse me. And I haven't got COVID. And apparently, they talked to quite a lot of people on this survey thing. And the bosses are saying, you will come in.
This may be because they don't trust you not to goof off if you're at home. Which argues that they think they're very poor judges of character.
That's
so
just
obviously hired incompetent people.
Yeah. So why did you employ this person in the first place?
Exactly.
They're cheap.
Yes, that could come into it. Or does okay under supervision.
Yeah, I can't be bothered to do anything else. I can't be bothered to look at another candidate.
That could have something to do with it. It's not a field I ever take part in.
I have.
I
used to have to interview people for employment, quite often by me. One is very careful then. I tell you. But even if it wasn't, and I'd be on a panel for job interviews, it's actually hard work. You do have to think, you have to care, you have to do all this stuff that we were just saying. You actually have to talk about it with your other panel members, and you may not all agree. Somehow you've got to come to a yes/no decision on this person, and you mustn't take all bloody day about it either.
Yes. Because you've got another 3 waiting outside the door.
At least, yes. It depends what time of day it is. So if it's 9 o'clock in the morning, you've got another 10. So you have to take care. But okay, let's put it into another problem here, which I think has to do with ego. One of the ghastly things that you see horrible pictures of every now and again is the enormous continents of garbage floating in the Pacific and the Atlantic.
Yes.
And they are practically continental size.
They are, yes.
Why? Because people throw things away and don't care.
Yes.
You don't.
Or they excuse it by saying, well, it's only me.
Yeah, which is like, I don't care.
500 million of you who did it.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, nobody is alive who has never thrown anything away except someone who can't afford.
They haven't got anything to throw away, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah.
It brings us to a totally different matter on the inequality of the third world.
But I didn't throw things away. I still don't throw things away. If they're no more use, I find a way of disposing of them successfully.
Yes.
But I don't open the car window and throw out a crisp bag.
No.
I might have a passenger well full of crisp bags, which eventually gets faulted. Who hasn't? But they do not go out the window.
No.
And I go out for a picnic. I go out for picnics. It's great up here. And, you know, I've got my food with me. I don't, if it's some of it's wrapped in paper, because it probably is, I don't throw the paper away.
No.
It goes in my pocket or my sack, my rucksack, if I've got some rucksack with me. And it comes home, or at least it goes back to the car, and passenger well is still impossible again. But people don't, parents don't sort of say, don't throw that away.
This is actually reminding me of an incident some years ago when I still lived in Aberdeen. We had at the time a chippy not too far away, and very responsibly they put a litter bin outside their door. And the local, I was going to say youth, but it was a certain gang of teenage boys who would go outside, eat some of their fish and chips, and throw the rest on the floor while standing next to the litter bin. And I did on one occasion step out of the door and say, "Do you know what that is?" And they looked at me as if I had 6 heads and went, "Of course we fucking know what it is, you stupid bitch." I said, "Right, it's a litter bin. You put your litter in it, or I'll put you in it." At which point, you know, the beefy 6'7", 16-year-old swaggers up to me and goes, "You News Army." You know, and since they probably won't remember me at this point, I applied a knee swiftly in his groin and put his head in the litter bin.
I would have been there. I would have been
sure. Then sort of dragged him out a minute later and dumped him on his bum on the floor and said, "Now pick up your litter, put it in the fucking bin." And they did. But people don't do that anymore.
No. And that's child abuse. You realise that?
I know. I got a round of applause when I went back in the chippy.
I bet you did. And you probably would, actually, from a lot of people nowadays.
Yes.
Because he wasn't actually damaged. He might have been covered in grease and revoltingness.
He was probably walking crooked for a few hours.
Yeah, but I mean, blokes' balls actually get better. I've done it myself.
There was no permanent damage except to his ego.
Exactly.
Which needed taking down several pegs.
You're such a candidate, because how tall are you?
5'2.5" on a good day.
Yeah. But people don't realise. I mean, I wouldn't argue with her. She's a karate expert.
No, I'm not. I'm karate.
She used to be.
At that time, admittedly, I was in practice.
Yeah, she used to be, and you can still remember it, and you still know how to do it. And a lot of it is not about how much muscular strength you've got; it's timing and knowing what to do.
Yeah.
And
so, a very good Japanese sensei who came over and taught our class one time said, you know, it doesn't matter if he's 6'6".
Yeah,
he's always the same height when you put him on the floor.
And this is true. I mean, I haven't got a hope in hell of doing it, but I learned similar sorts of things to do with Tai Chi. And, you know, no, Tai Chi is not just a sweet and innocent love and light thing.
No, it's actually a much more sophisticated martial art than karate.
It's a very good fighting technique.
Yeah.
And, you know, all this sort of clouds and all this sort of thing is all about, you know, actually chopping somebody's throat and killing them.
It used to be the case that you learned one of the hard martial arts like karate. And when you'd become a sufficiently skilled black belt, you then moved on to one of the soft martial arts like Tai Chi.
Yeah. I never did. I just did Tai Chi.
Yes.
I landed in Tai Chi when I was 18.
Yes.
I first went to university.
I think at the time they were doing it that way, you started off in karate at the age of about 4.
Yeah. Well,
or whatever, probably kung fu, given that they're both Chinese.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
And then when you were about 20 or so, you moved on to Tai Chi.
Yeah. And it's like, wow. And some of the Tai Chi stuff that I've seen done, it is magic.
Yes.
This is real magic, and it's fighting magic.
Yes.
But back to the litter bins and things like that. The only thing that was damaged was the bloke's ego, and probably the egos of his mates.
Slightly dented, you know, somewhat. They did actually learn from example.
Yeah, it's like, we don't want that to happen to us.
Yes. I mean, if they'd all got together and piled in on me, there were half a dozen of them, I would have been.
Oh God, yes, yeah, but
they took the point.
yeah, and also
example.
don't,
yeah, yes.
don't do it. And but as you say, nobody does that.
No.
And back to the thing, you're not allowed to be wrong. You can't possibly be wrong. You can't tell the child that actually you got that around the back of your neck. I was. I don't get terribly damaged, do I?
Not noticeably.
Yeah. And
I had the opposite problem with my daughter when she was growing up, because when she went to school, she became so afraid of making mistakes, she wouldn't do anything.
Yes, of course, poor soul. Yeah.
And then I'd get parents' reports that said, you know, Michelle is very good, but very, very slow and never finishes anything. I was like, have you actually noticed that whenever she tries to do things, you tell her that she's doing it wrong? Because she's not doing it the way you want. She's doing it a different way, which still works.
Yeah.
But that's digressing slightly. Michelle has the opposite.
Well, it isn't because, you know, it's sort of like, have you ever noticed that you're telling her she's doing it wrong? And well, I did get told that I got things around the back of my neck. I did get, and this is from teachers, even nuns, for Christ's sake. I did get, I wouldn't do it that way if I were you.
Yes.
Would you like to see something that's a bit quicker and more efficient?
Yes.
I certainly got that from Dad.
Yes.
And you get it from the odd teacher or two, although I did have some of those who said, this is the only way you can do this.
Yes.
I didn't learn a lot.
This was one of the problems with Michelle, was that my mother had taught her a lot of maths before she went to school. So she went to school and she'd learned a lot of ways of doing maths. And she was very good at maths and she got the right answers, but she wasn't doing it the way that the teacher said you had to do it. So they marked it wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, no, the answer was correct. You went different ways to get there, but you both ended up at the same place. The answer is correct. And I did drive the point home at one point when I went into a parents' evening and corrected their English on the blackboard in front of all the other parents. Because they had us all lined up while the English teacher was busy haranguing somebody. And I sort of looked at the board behind them and then just got up, picked up the chalk and corrected the English behind them. All the punctuation was wrong. And they were like, you can't do that. I said, I just have. I think at that point they sort of went, I think this might be inherited.
You mean the intelligence was inherited?
Yes. Being an awkward customer who doesn't just sit meekly and go, yes, sir, no, sir.
No. Well, no, I mean, Michelle, well, she did used to, she probably doesn't now. But she'd be afraid of being wrong. And I mean, a lot of kids are afraid of being wrong because being wrong is bad.
You've got to teach your children that it's not bad to be wrong. No. It's a little foolish if you make the same mistake twice.
Well, 3 times is really...
3 times is pushing it.
Yes.
But there's nothing wrong with being wrong.
And I mean, even if you do make the same mistake 3 times, you know, if somebody's got the gumption, the time, and can be bothered, which is another one, yes, to sit down and say, this is not going in, isn't it? What's the problem? And I mean, my husband had some lovely examples of that. He used to work in particle physics at an amazing place near Oxford. And it was absolutely bung full of PhDs, and they were good ones, not ones that just served time to get it. And they were doing an experiment, and there's one bit of it that he hadn't understood. So over coffee later, it's like, just what is so-and-so? What was going on? So this PhD, probably about the same age as him, sort of said, it's la 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 la, and Paul sat there going, yeah. And so the guy said, you didn't get that. Right. Now, what the guy did was, tell me a little bit about you. How did you do maths at school? So Paul gave him a couple of incidents. Right. And he retranslated the whole thing
Yes.
Gave it to Paul, and Paul went, oh yeah.
I do see exactly the same thing with animals. People
Totally.
training animals. The number of times I've heard someone say, my horse is behaving badly.
No.
No, the horse is behaving badly is a matter of opinion. Your horse is behaving for reasons that to him or her seem perfectly valid.
Hmm.
You know? But he knows that plastic bag in the hedge is not. No, he doesn't actually. He doesn't.
If he did know it, he wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. So rather than pumping him with the whip and kicking him to make him more scared of you than he is of the back of the hedge.
Something has happened to your microphone.
Good heavens. See, no, it looks okay on this end.
That's better. That's okay. You come back.
Instead of punishing your horse for being scared, get off. Reward him. Tell him he's fine. You go first.
Yeah. Come on, guys. It's fine. You know,
Yes.
stroke, cuddle, cuddle.
Yes. And I had an incident here just the other day when the farmers put up some scarecrows and a kite on one of those flexible rod things to scare pigeons off his crops. And the horses all came out in the yard and they went like that. And you could see them. Poppy spotted it first, and everyone else went, "Oh my God, what's she looking at?" And then George, who always gets pushed into these by the others, is like, "Okay, I've got my brave pants on. I'm going." And he walked down to have a look at it. And he got to the edge of the yard where it turns from concrete to mud, basically. And he's like, "Okay, well, I'm 10 feet on from everyone else. It hasn't bitten me yet." And I happened to duck through the fence at that point to pick up his bucket. And he sort of glanced at me and went, "She looks okay, right?" And he went another 5 yards. And I went up behind him and said, "It's okay. It's nothing to worry about. Pat, pat, stroke, stroke. No problem. You see, I'm looking at it too. It's fine. It's just a kite. You know, drivel, 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 in a nice, calm, reassuring sort of tone." And he looks at it and he sort of went, "Yeah, okay. Yeah, it does seem to be okay. Yeah, okay." And then it was really sweet because he then leaned down and gave me a reassuring little nuzzle to say, "It's okay. I got this." And we stood there for about another 10 minutes. The other horses are all sort of like, "Oh, okay, didn't eat them. We're going back to the hay. Bye-bye." And George and I stood there and watched as they put up 3 or 4 more scarecrows, which is a post with a big flappy plastic bag nailed to the top. And every now and again, I'd stand next to him and just rub his shoulder and say, "Yeah, see, it's everything fine. It's just silly humans doing silly human things." And every now and again, he'd just reach down and go, "It's okay. I got it. I got you back."
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And it was a fantastic bonding moment. But it was not the moment to say, "You stupid horse, you can see it's just a plastic bag." Because horses don't generalize. Yes, okay, if I hold a carrier bag, they'll stick their head straight in it because they know there's probably something edible at the bottom. But that's not the same thing as a bag in the hedge or a bag behind the gate or a bag that suddenly jumps out from under their feet with the wind in it.
No.
Or a great, huge, transparent plastic bag nailed to the top of a post in a field.
No. And another thing,
they don't have egos and they're never afraid to be wrong.
Well, they do have egos, but they're not the same.
True. They have egos sufficient for their purpose.
Yeah.
They do not have this, "I've got to be right."
Oh no. And they're really excited to learn something new.
Yes.
Oh, hey, that doesn't actually hurt. Guys, I've just been real up close to it.
Yes.
And they do that. I mean, I see it with my cats, and I've seen it with other animals that I've had as well. And it's the same sort of thing. I mean, I've got a pile of boxes in the kitchen which has got to go, but is on the list. And and one of them fell down the other day. Kellen adores boxes. She is a cat.
Yes.
And so she now has 3 boxes in the kitchen, one under the table. Oh, there's an egg box. I'll put it up. I haven't put it up. We've got a picture of her sitting in the lid of an egg box.
Yes.
And there's another box which Paul got something in yesterday, and it hasn't gone off the table yet. So she was in it this morning, eating it, ripping it to shreds because that's really fun. And anyway, this one of the boxes in the pile fell down.
Yes.
Yes. Vertical takeoff cat up 3 feet,
lands with fur like this and all that.
Yeah, and all the claws sticking out, the fur, and the tail totally bottled, and the eyes out on stalks. And I do have a slight problem here because, of course, she looks just like something out of a cartoon.
Yes.
And so it's like,
Yes.
we do not laugh. We do not laugh. We do not laugh. Right. Deep breath.
Yes.
Hey, what happened then? What was all that? You know, and so we were doing this. And it's like, I know she's actually growled at the bloody thing.
Yeah.
Fine. It's a really ferocious box, darling. I think you should growl at it a bit more. Come on, let's both go together. And then soon it was like bat, bat, and because it skidded across the floor, which was great. So then she jumped in it.
Yes. But you have to go and find out.
Exactly. And yes, she knows boxes. Yes, she likes boxes. She's got boxes.
This one did
This
something.
wasn't a box. This could have been a bloody dragon landing there in front of her.
Yes.
She had to
Exactly.
pull out.
And having found out, she's okay. That wasn't dangerous. That's okay.
Yeah. And then she was
As a species, I think humans have forgotten how to do that.
yeah. Well, there's a big one you started off with. You know, well, you didn't, but it just now you said, I didn't go up to George and sort of say, you stupid horse.
Hmm.
Well, it isn't just you stupid horse. I could have started off with you stupid cat.
Hmm.
You could start off with you stupid dog if you've got a dog, or you could start off with you stupid child.
I do on occasion if the dogs deliberately push things off.
That's a whole other issue.
Kettle of fish. That's nothing to do with ego and fear.
Can I wind her up enough?
I need you to pay attention to me. So
Yes.
I'll just put your laptop on the floor.
And I get it from Kel every now and again too. It's like, it's my go. You've had your head in that computer for half an hour. Yes. And then it's sort of, you know, she'll jump on the keyboard and I end up sort of total splurge.
It's not bad behavior. It's as far as that
goes, not listening to me.
Yes.
Which is communication again.
Yes.
And she's perfectly right. And I mean, sometimes, you know, she's finished her breakfast 5 hours ago and it is actually time for tea. And it's like, I've been yowling. I've been jumping on my chair. I've been waving my tail and looking cute for at least half an hour. And you still haven't bloody listened.
With the dogs, it's usually a case of I'm practically crossing my paws. I've been whining for 10 minutes and you're still trying to get that thing written.
Yep.
I need you to open the door.
Yeah. And if you don't, I shall pee all over your floor. So there. No. But yeah, I mean, and then you can't call that bad behavior.
No.
It's your bad behavior that you were actually so far off with the fairies you weren't noticing. But again,
they still have good reasons.
Yeah. But if you've got this idea that humans are sort of God's special species and there's nothing like it and you've got to be right, then you can't have made a mistake, like forgotten the time and not fed the cat.
Yes.
Or forgotten the time and not watched that the dogs need to go and pee. That wasn't your mistake. It was the bad behavior of the dogs. They should have waited.
By this time, they've probably been leaping up and down on the spot going, my paws are all tied in a knot and I can't hold it in any longer.
Exactly.
Yes.
Or, you know, my throat thinks my stomach thinks my throat's been cut.
Yes.
You know, it is your problem. You actually have created the problem by not noticing, not taking care. We've got this lovely noticing course on Deirdre's Tribe. Do go and advert over. And you do have to, and your ego has to like come down to like, oops, I forgot to feed the cat. Or oops, I forgot to take the dogs out.
And the next thing that should come out of your mouth is, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm coming now.
Yeah, I'm coming right now. I'm really sorry. And certainly for us, it is.
But for most people, it isn't.
No. And it probably isn't. Either it isn't for their child, or else their child only has to lift a finger or squawk and get their attention, which is just as bad.
Yes.
You know, it's like, Mum is busy. Go and do something else. I will have time for you in an hour. Mind you, must have time for them in an hour then.
Yes.
But not now. Mum needs an hour. Go away. And that's okay.
Yes.
And I mean, kids don't actually want you around their neck all the time, and you're probably bore.
No, but they would like to know that they can get your attention whenever they want. And in some ways, learning that they
Whenever
can't
they
is an
need, not
important
quite
thing.
whenever they want,
Well,
Fiona.
this is the difference. They do go through a stage where it's, what can I get this person to do for me?
Yes.
And they need to learn at that point that there are boundaries.
Yep.
And that's where your healthy ego side starts coming in.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So yes, your mum will always be there when you need, but not necessarily when you want.
No. Sometimes it's going to be mum time.
And sometimes you'd really rather she wasn't there, and damn it, she caught you anyway.
Exactly.
Yes.
Mum, I want to do this on my own. Go away.
Yes.
But you don't know how to do it. But I'm going to learn.
Fine. That's fine. That's perfectly acceptable. You know, go off, make the mistakes. If you want to learn better, come back to me afterwards.
Yeah. Well, you know, I shall be around at 5 o'clock when you need me to help put it back together. And then, of course, I like doing that. And it used to get done to me. I'll be around at 5 o'clock when you need help putting it back together properly. So you go along at 5 o'clock, go, I don't need you. And they go, yeah. And your parents really pleased because you have learned.
The other one that we always used to get was, the complaints department is only open at 2 o'clock on a Friday.
Yep. Yeah, I used to get that too. Yeah. Complaints department shut, we're having breakfast. Oh,
yeah.
You know, meal times was sort of sacred from that. No, we're not hearing about that now.
Yes. Yeah,
You know,
we all ate together as a family, and you did not argue over the meal table.
No. This was nice time.
Yes.
And if you really couldn't hold it and something absolutely frightful happened, there might be a pause between courses, or possibly dinner was slightly late or something.
Yes.
If you absolutely had to get it out, which sometimes, of course, you do. And but again, you know, maybe this is it. We started off with this: how do you know, not fall out with your best friend, even though you totally disagree with a stupid woman? You're flexible.
You have to learn how to be part of a social group. And a harmonious part of a social group.
Most of the time.
Yes, but you also need to know how to apologize and make up afterwards.
And one used to happen at university, and then later at work, is, you know, and everything just gets too much fear in there. And so Ellen's got one on, just make a coffee and leave her alone.
Yes.
And your friends could just say, you've got one on. I don't know, you probably don't, you may not know that phrase, but it's sort of like, you know, you're in a tizzy, you're in a tantrum, and you know, as far as you're concerned, that bloody world ought to be killed now. And
anyone who speaks to you is going to get their head bitten off.
Exactly, yeah. And sometimes, I mean, certainly at university, it was like, you know, certainly my friends and I, we had notices like, not now.
Yes.
Or put the tea inside the door and go away.
Yes.
Or I'm open for tea.
I used to have a professor at university who had a door code. If the door was closed, he was busy. If the door was slightly ajar, you could knock if you had a good excuse. If it was slightly wider, then it was fine. You could go in with even frivolous things. If it was wide open, he was bored rigid, and please would somebody come and talk to him.
Yeah, similar sort of thing. Yes. Yeah. But you know, we all managed to live together in a house share with our notices, and we all managed to live together in a hall of residence in the first year with the notices. You got some people who just couldn't bloody learn, and usually, you know, three of us would like sit them down with tea and now listen.
Yes.
This is how it is. And it did get quite didactic at that point.
Yes.
But you do have to actually let people alone.
Yes.
And you know, if they want to have, you know, a real tantrum and slaughter everybody who comes near, maybe that's what they need for half an hour. Let them do it. I'm going to kill you.
But if the door is wide open, you know, the least you can do is stick your head around and go, hi, I'm just about to put the kettle on. Do you want one?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But if the answer is no, that's fine.
And you sort of walk past, or if you're in a bad mood, so, hi, not talking today.
Yeah.
And then they know you're not going to be any use to them, helping them with the boredom. So wait for somebody else to come along.
Yeah.
And the other one is, and I'm sort of remembering this from lots of times, is don't try and fix it when your mate is in a bad way.
No, be there.
Mm.
Don't be in the way.
I'm here with the kettle when you want me.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Yeah.
And they will when they do. But, you know, again, you've got to sort of like guess this, because sometimes they absolutely need you to get your arms around them and make sure that they're crying into your shoulder for 5 minutes.
Yes.
And you've got to like learn when that one is and when they actually need leaving alone. And so you really got to connect. You've got to connect and communicate with people. Otherwise, you're not going to make a social group of any type, even of two people.
But there is another point to that, and that is learning the ability to, when someone says, are you okay? You have to be able to say, no, I'm not. Because there are times when no, all of us are not. And you just need somebody.
Yeah. And you also, part of that one is, and this goes for both sides, you know, the person who's not okay, no, I'm not, but it might be, but don't touch me now. And fine. And the person who's said, are you okay? And they go, no, I'm not. You want me?
Yeah. Well, that very easy one, can I help?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, then fine, I'm just going to go put the kettle on. You know, let me know if there's anything I can do.
Yeah. And go.
Yeah.
Get out of the way.
Yeah.
You know, don't try and make it right. Okay, slightly further with that then. Why do we need to try and make it right? This is ego.
This is ego again. Yes. I have to be able to fix things.
And her being unhappy is making me miserable and scared.
Yes.
Oh shit, get over it. It's not your problem.
You have to be able to say, this is not my job.
She doesn't
I'd like to be able to help, but this is actually beyond me.
Yeah.
Or, you know, actually, no, she needs somebody else. He needs somebody else.
And she doesn't want me at the moment. I can just be around, but I haven't got to make it right for her. And we never can make it right for anybody else anyway, so it's a waste of time trying.
Right. Well, the other bit there, when you say, you know, they don't want me, that doesn't translate to they never want to speak to me ever again as long as I live.
Exactly.
That translates to, you know, wait 5 minutes and put the kettle on.
Yeah. Just be around.
Just be there. Be within reach if they need to reach out.
And the other one, which is good for, you know, our students and people in the tribe and all that kind of thing, is don't go reaching your tentacles out after them either. Keep your bloody boundaries around you.
Yeah.
Don't go invading.
You do need to have your own space.
And they need to have theirs. Not invaded by your good wishes.
Yes. You have to learn the difference between sympathy, compassion, and empathy.
And I can't bear it because it hurts me.
Tough.
It's not
really
about you.
That is tough in both ways.
Yeah.
It is tough to do.
Yeah.
But it's also something you need to do for them.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best thing you can do for anyone else is not be there.
Yeah.
Not be in their face.
Get out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a
and again, coming back to the animals, I've had to do that so much with George over the last 2.5 years. The only thing I could do for George was be there, be constant, but not be continually in his face. And as a result, after 2.5 years, he's now got my back. You know, and that's him healing himself.
Yeah. And you actually helping by not being there.
Yes. Well, I was always there.
No, you know what I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, you were always there. If
was there, but never in his way, never trying to fix it for him.
Yeah.
Always willing to say, okay, the answer to this question I've just said, do you want? The answer is no. Okay, that's a valid answer. I'm leaving. And not, but you're a horse and I'm a human, so you will pick up your bloody hoof. No, you won't.
I suppose the only time that could ever sort of be like, darling, please, is if it was injured.
Yes,
And you had to do something.
yes. But to be honest with George, he's such an extreme case. It would have been a case of I phone the vet and get him sedated.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
In fact, I did have to do that when he needed his teeth doing.
Yeah.
I got the vet out and we doped him to the eyeballs. He was sort of hanging over his door, mostly out of it.
Yeah, but you
Needed them, but
and that's like another like
Hmm.
you've got to judge the situation. What does
Yes.
it need?
yes,
And you don't let them die because they're saying don't touch my hoof,
yes,
and it's practically falling off or whatever.
yes,
You get the vet and you sort it, and all the time you're talking, you're saying, darling, your foot's hanging off, you're going to die if
yes,
you do this. I suppose being us, it would be like, do you want to die this way, before you actually went any further? But let's pull back from that one, because that's quite sort of Rainbow Warriors level.
yes.
But it's like you've got to judge again. I mean, there's your kid with a sort of broken leg and the bone sticking out through the flesh.
Yes,
No, don't touch me. Which I quite understand.
absolutely.
Darling, we've got to do this.
Yes.
I'm holding you. It's going to be all right. Yeah, you scream. It's okay.
Yes,
So you're all the time, and this is the flexibility again. Your boundaries are like this the whole time, testing where you need to be, and you're all the time, am I necessary there, or am I not? And please don't get into this, excuse me, what I call the Glastonbury thing, of like, my spirits told me to fix your leg.
yeah.
You
We're
can
agreed on that one.
see my fist coming at that point. If your spirits say you must be there to fix your leg, argue.
Yes,
There may be conceivably a good reason, and this is the flexibility again.
yes.
But for God's sake, don't just follow it.
No.
Please ask.
Regardless of what your spirit's busy telling you,
What are her spirits telling you?
everyone else has spirits. And your spirits may well be saying, yes, go and do that. You're going to walk headfirst into a brick wall and it will be good for you.
Indeed. Who hasn't had that? No hands.
Nobody I know.
No hands going up. That's fine.
Yeah.
And they put up mistakes for you. So we're back to the mistakes is okay. It's fine to make mistakes. You learn from making mistakes.
This is something I used to say to Michelle when she was a toddler. As toddlers do, they fall over a lot. It's actually quite complicated learning to walk. You forget.
Yes.
She used to come in with blood running down her leg. It's okay, that's what knees are for.
Yeah.
Here, have a plaster.
Yeah. This is how we do it.
Yes.
You haven't got any bits of tarmac in there, have you?
No. Well, you have a look and you wash out anything horrible. Yeah, okay, that hurt a bit, but it's going to get better. That's what knees are for.
And you're actually explaining why you're hurting, because you're washing the bits of tarmac or whatever it is out. This is going to hurt, but we need to do it because you can't actually have the skin grow back together over this tarmac, or you'll be very ill.
I think she got that one without needing to be told.
No, I mean, sometimes some kids don't. So, maybe you do need to say.
I did have something at one point. There was walking my little terrier in Aberdeen, and some wretched child gallops up and grabs her by the head. stuck his finger in her eye. So of course she snarled and snapped. Screams from the child, who's obviously had a bit of a shock. Older child comes running up. I'm going to report your dog to the police. It's just bitten my brother. I was like, where's the blood? Total silence. The screams stopped, and he's like, actually, I wasn't bitten. There's nothing is bleeding.
All I can say is it was a good job it wasn't me.
Yes.
I would probably be in jail for murder.
But I then turned the dog around and taught them how to pat the dog properly.
No, I would just have killed the child. I'm afraid I'm that kind of person. It would have been bang, whack, pick child up, smash head on pavement, just to make sure.
Yeah, they did get the point.
The only thing that stops me is being in prison, I must admit. So
Yes.
don't think I'm a nice person.
The knowledge that actions have consequences is a totally different subject that people also need to learn.
Yeah, but we're not going to do that one.
We'll do that some other time.
No. I have actually learned that Newton's every action has an equal and opposite reaction does work.
Yes.
And
as well as physically, yes.
Yeah, and I now temper my actions to try and avoid these kind of things.
Well,
if I don't want them.
this was behind my reasoning when I sort of went, well, where's the blood? Because you can't just dot a 2-year-old on the head in the open street in front of people.
No, and you probably can't, and I have to actually sit on my hands.
Yes.
And I don't have kids.
Yeah.
This was probably a good idea. So, you know, don't actually get the feeling that yeah, that's another one actually to notice. Not actually everyone, especially women, has to love kids.
No.
You don't.
No.
If
I'm
you
not looking for
do it, don't do it.
You know, my own, yes, fine, I'll walk through fire for her. Other people's, there's a fire extinguisher, off you go.
Yeah, we're back to the I'm helium in the blaze. I've never actually done any of this.
Actually, if you're actually honest with yourself and you sit down and you think, actually, you know, people post up all these photos of newborn babies on
puke.
Everyone's busy gushing and you look at it and you think, oh God, there's another one.
I mean, they really do turn my stomach. It's like, you know, I actually have to look away if you've got this child dribbling food down its chin on a TV advert.
Yes.
Or with its nappy sagging.
Yes.
I can't look. My gorge starts to rise, really.
There are reasons why I don't have a TV.
It's my husband's TV.
Yes. Yes, I know.
And I do actually like watching films on it.
There are some things that I do miss, but not enough to actually get the TV.
No, it's there. We've got it. Quite nice watching films on a nice big screen. So, but actually, he sits so that he can look at it, and I sit the same side as the TV. So actually, I have to make an effort and move to another chair to actually see it.
I've taken a different way around it and just got Netflix on VR. But then I live by myself.
Yeah,
I can be antisocial and sit here with a headset on, and it's nobody else's business.
No, it's absolutely fine. Yeah, and again, that's fine. And we can both be flexible enough to work around this. And
yes. But it comes back to sociability again. I wouldn't do that if somebody else was living in the house.
I might. I mean, I do that actually with Paul, because sometimes there's something I want to watch or listen to, which I can listen to on here on the laptop. So it's headphones on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's watching
whatever you might want to actually converse.
He's slightly less sociable than me, in that I really have to sort of make a lot of point of, like, I have heard this program 5 times. I am bored out of my fucking skull. Can you wait till I've gone to bed?
Yes.
It's a bit sort of brick on head kind of job you have to do occasionally, but
that's just Paul.
It's Paul.
I know Paul. Yes.
Yeah, we know Paul. But he does shut up. I mean, he actually for God's sake, he actually likes watching the news.
Well, all I can say is there's no accounting for taste.
No, he has now been persuaded that he does this because you can get news 24/7. Yes. He does this after I've gone to bed.
I want to know the news. I look it up online and read it, and then
exactly. And it takes me all of about 3 minutes. I think there's nothing on today, but I haven't got any new COVID rules to look out for. Fine, go away.
Yes.
But no.
I never bother with that. I have a friend in Aberdeen who watches the COVID briefing from the First Minister every day and just passes on anything. It's like, okay, that's fun. No accounting for taste, you see. She has nothing better to do. She has nothing better to do with her time. It's her time. It's fine. Saves me the trouble of watching.
Yeah, and just because I think it's completely lunatic doesn't mean I have to stuff it down her throat.
No.
I still think it's completely lunatic, but
yes.
you know, she's not getting up my nose with it, so it's fine.
And you know, coming back to the learning to live with each other politely,
Yeah.
it costs me nothing when she sends me a text with the latest updates to say thank you and change the subject.
Mine get to, fortunately, one has all these emojis on one's phone, on one's computer, so it's like thumbs up, off.
Yes. Oh, that happens, yes.
Mind you, we do that to each other when we can't be bothered any longer and we've got something else to do.
Or it just doesn't need an answer.
No, it doesn't. No, exactly. No. I mean, it's quite nice to acknowledge that you've got it if somebody
Yes.
sent you something, you know, like I sent you a link or something.
Yes. I was like, okay, I haven't got time to watch it now, but,
No, but I've
thumbs
got
up,
it.
I'll get to it later.
Yeah. And of course, it's always there. So, you know, I don't. If I needed you to watch it right now, I would probably have got you
Said so.
visually in it. Fiona, you must watch this now.
And I would make the time and watch it.
Well,
But,
you might have done it. You might say, go away, I have to deal with George. I can't.
well, if I'm in the middle of something with George, that's different. But I will watch it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to
And
flexibility.
this is all this back to, we don't have to be the same. We don't have to totally be set flower pots being each other. You can,
Wouldn't life be boring if we were? My God.
and you can disagree.
Yes.
Mm.
And just say, you know, well, I disagree with you. Let's see how it turns out.
Mm.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
Come back in 5 years when the politicians have made a muck of it. And I shall apologise for being wrong.
I doubt it. No, I mean the wrong bit with that. But yeah, it is. I think we've dribbled on enough.
We probably have, yes.
So I think we shall sod off and we'll try and do another blog. By the way, just a quickie.
Yes.
We for everybody out there, when we started, we had to have a half an hour chat before we could get going because we hadn't had time to catch up with each other since the new year.
Yes. We have been so busy.
And I gather from various other friends that this is how it is for lots of people. Hang in there, guys. Keep breathing.
Yes.
And do try to sit down and have a cup of tea and say, it's all going to have to wait for a minute. It's all going to have to wait.
Boundaries. This is my space for 5 minutes. Nothing's coming in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. So on that note, we shall sod off and leave you. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
That isn't quite what I meant.